Okay, guys, let's talk a little bit about nutrition. Um, Seneca and I both teach a class, or at least I do. Maybe she teaches every once in a while on sports nutrition. So you get a little bit more in depth in this if you'd like to take another class. There's some good information on this slide bank. I'm going to hit some of the stuff pretty quickly. Other stuff I'm going to spend a little more time. So if I hit it quick, that doesn't mean it's not important. It just means that I want to spend more time on other things and not keep you on this video for very long. So make sure that you understand and get through the information, and that you ask the questions that you need to make sure that you know it well. So just a couple of quick definitions. We're going to talk about lots of reasons why we eat. Hunger is one. It's just a feeling that you need nutrients. And that one is interesting. Some people crave certain foods. I know that sugar is a really popular crave. Protein is. People really just they have this strong desire to eat meat. I had a coworker a number of years ago that had an iron deficiency, and she actually craved dirt. That hunger for that particular nutrient, so which is weird, and some people do that. To me, it's weird. I'm sure to them they probably think they're strange too, but at the same time they're like, oh, I just got to eat dirt. Anyway, there's also appetite, and appetite is psychological factor. So that's going to influence kind of your dietary choices, what you like to eat, how hungry you are, how much you eat, things like that. So both of those can have a direct effect on your hunger. Here are some other reasons why we eat. You might be able to relate to some of those, especially emotional comfort. Some of you like to, when you stress, eat ice cream or what have you. Some of you crave the nutritional value for something, whatever it may be. Social interaction is a big one for like Super Bowl Sunday. There's always something there, birthday parties, whatever. So those are reasons why we eat. Look through those and see if you can relate to, you can probably relate to most of them. There is a lot of research being done on nutrition, especially when we get towards the end. We'll look at malnutrition, which is the lack of nutrients, but it's also the overabundance of food too. So you can have obesity and malnutrition as well, right? So what we're looking at is the relationship somewhere between the physiological function, or what we need to eat, and why we eat, or what we eat, or all those other reasons. So basically, a healthy diet, you should just meet that energy need. You should meet your nutrient need. A nutrient is calories, but it's also vitamins and minerals and things like that. We'll talk about it, fiber, and we'll get a little bit more into that. So that's a healthy diet when you adequately meet it. You don't want to go too much. You don't want to go not enough. And of course, you hear the old adage all the time: moderation in all things. And some days you're going to eat more than other days. It's just kind of the cycle of our mood. It's the social interaction. It's that. But as long as we're in balance over 3 or 4 days, then we're going to be fine. It's an important key to make sure that you get lots of different combinations of food, because they all provide nutrients in different ways, including vitamins and minerals. And so having different varieties is really, really important in our diets. So water is really, really important as well, as many of you know. This percentage, 60 to 65%, I've seen it as high as 70 in some literature, but we're going to go with 60 to 65%. It just depends too on your body mass. The more fat that you carry, we tend to have a little bit more water on board. Water is super important for cell function, for nerve conduction stuff, for digestion, for brain function. Water does to regulate body temperature. It does tons and tons of stuff in our body, and obviously you can't go without being hydrated for very long. It can kill you, as you may know. Here's a video on the importance of water. If you can't pull it up right off the slide bank, I believe that we're creating a way for you to see it. So look for the importance of water and take a look at it. So proteins are next. When we look at proteins, about 10% of our total calories should come from proteins, as you can see there. So if you're on a 2,000 calorie a day diet, then 10% of that 2,000 calories should be protein. Repairs tissues. It helps with your immune function. It helps with hormone function. So it does all kinds of anything that you can anything that you do functionally in your body, repairing tissue, growing, seeing, whatever, it has to do with the protein. So proteins do everything. So they're super important. One thing that proteins don't do is provide a ton of calories. So it's about 4 calories per gram, but they're not really efficient kind of calories. Our bodies, and this comes from sports nutrition, but our bodies only utilize proteins for energy, for to make us go, about 5% of the time. So it isn't really used for energy as it is for body functions and repair and things like that. Carbohydrates, here we go. So this is the one that really is the important one for energy. So 45 to 65% of total calories should come from our carbohydrates. So when we're talking about energy, it's not just to go for a run or to do those kind of things, but it's also really important to promote that cellular function as well. So our proteins can't build our bodies and repair and make hormones and make us go and things like that without having some energy source, and that comes from carbohydrates. So 45 to 65% there. You'll get way more into the different types of carbohydrate in other classes, in my sports nutrition, for example. But we do have a couple different types where it's complex and simple. You can break those down into even other ones, but just basically there's complex ones, and that just means that the carbohydrate chain has a lot of carbons in it, and they call it a polysaccharide. And those are your big ones, your grains, your whole foods, your cereals, your vegetables, things like that. So like sugar, table sugar, not a complex carbohydrate. The high fructose corn syrup, not a complex carbohydrate. So make sure you know the difference, that there's a complex one and a simple one. We want to kind of stay away from the simple ones. They tend to be absorbed really quickly in our body, and our body tends to store those as fat. So make sure that when we do eat, most of our carbohydrates should be more from a complex source, naturally occurring complex source. Fiber is also a sugar, believe it or not. It's a carbohydrate, but the thing with fiber is that in order to break down a carbohydrate, you need to have an enzyme. And for instance, glucose. The enzyme for glucose is glucase, ASE. Put an ASE basically on the end of it. Well, fiber is known as amylose, and we don't have the enzyme for amylose, that starch. So fiber pretty much stays intact, and it flows through our digestive tract. And it works really, really good to kind of clean up our digestive tract, especially with cholesterol-type fats and just debris that's left behind through our digestive and absorption process. There are some water-soluble fibers that can get into our circulatory system, and that can help clean up our circulatory system as well. So fiber is really kind of the cleaner of our systems. And so it's really important to get enough fiber. And as you can see, good intake of fiber does a lot of really good things. It protects us against a lot of diseases that are really plaguing us, mankind at this time. So make sure you look through that list and you know what fiber does. So it's super important. You can find those in your whole grains, vegetables, and things like that. You can see the list over there on the right. Fats is another one it's pretty important. I know that a lot of people are like, oh, fats, got to stay away from fats. They pack a lot of calories, 9 calories per gram, which is a lot. So if you think of a carbohydrate at 4 calories per gram, this is almost double. So we have to be careful with these. There are several different types of fats, and the ones that are from animal sources or saturated fats tend to be the ones that are more dangerous to us, because I like to think of them as being kind of sticky. And when they're sticky, they flow through our veins and arteries, and they kind of stick to the wall of them, and then they form clots. And we'll look at that here in a second. Or we'll look at that when we do heart disease. So that's kind of the problem with saturated fats. Unsaturated fats, like the little cartoon on the right, like from avocados and things like that, are great. You don't want to eat a ton of them, but they're great in the fact that they serve an important function in our body. For different systems in our body, we need fats, and so they're super important to have. So those are the ones we want to kind of aim for. We want to look more towards the vegetable fats. They're more preferred than the animal source saturated ones. So 20 to 30% of our diets should be, or calories, excuse me, should be from fat. And here on the right is that look. So you have a saturated fat, and they can build up plaque, kind of this the one in the middle there. And if it gets too much plaque, then the flow in our arteries, the blood flow doesn't work. And basically, we cut off oxygen to our cells and forces us to, it kills our muscles. And if that happens around our heart, we can have a heart attack. So that's the cholesterol that comes from that saturated fat. So that's called arteriosclerosis, and we want to try to avoid having that at all costs. Literature is telling us that we start to form these plaques as early as 9 years of age. So it can start pretty early. We usually don't see the effect until we're much older, in our 40s and 50s, and we start, seeing people have heart attacks. So be careful with your fats. Make sure that when you're it's okay to have a hamburger every once in a while, but understand that too much of that saturated stuff can cause issues in your arteries with arteriosclerosis. So vitamins and minerals, we'll get way more into this in our nutrition class, but just know that they promote health and function in our bodies. These work with proteins. So if you break a protein down, you get amino acids. And to make an amino acids into a protein that's unique and has a special function, you need a vitamin or mineral to go with it. For example, hemoglobin, which sits on the red blood cell and carries oxygen around our body. Hemoglobin is an amino acid, or amino acids put together. It's a protein. In order to make it special, it combines it primarily with iron, the mineral iron. So that's why when people are anemic, they're like, oh, I need to get some iron in me. Well, iron is one of those things that make hemoglobin, combines with a protein and makes hemoglobin. So you need a vitamin and mineral to combine with a protein to make that protein unique so that it can do its special function in our body. That's why we need vitamins and minerals in our diets, and often. We don't store vitamins and minerals very well in our body. Calcium we store pretty good in our bones, but other than that, we really don't. Our bodies take out what they need, and we get rid of the rest through our urine and feces. So we need to keep a constant supply of vitamins and minerals flowing through us, and we can do that with the foods that we eat. So there's two different forms there: fat soluble and water soluble. A, D, and K are your fat soluble ones, and all that means is that they dissolve through fat better. So your fat soluble will enter through the cell wall, for example, a little bit better. But water solubles do just as well. It just breaks them down, or helps them, not break them down necessarily, but help them pass through cells. Anyway, that's the difference between water and fat soluble vitamins. So minerals tend to be inorganic. They're indestructible. If you eat one and you don't use it in your body, or even if you do, you're eventually going to excrete it out, and it goes out into the environment like it came in. So they're always out there. You're going to find them a lot in the dirt that we grow our vegetables in, or what are the food that is eating off of the ground before we eat that food, like a chicken or a cow, is going to pick up certain minerals off the ground. So there's a couple of examples of those but basically they're indestructible. They're everywhere. So we're going to get them in our vegetables that grow in the ground, basically. More minerals. Here's some important ones: sodium, calcium, vitamin D, iron. You can read through that as well as I can. Just know that I want to point out that the calcium one is super important, especially for females. And you can see their recommendation for teenage girls is almost a gram a day. So, and the reason for that is because of osteoporosis later in life. If you are a female athlete, even more important, because calcium doesn't just build strong bones, but it also serves the function of releasing our muscle. So like when we contract, in order to relax that contraction, we need calcium to help that relaxation happen so we can contract again. And it happens all the time. Every movement we make, we're tightening and relaxing the muscle. And every time we relax, we need calcium to do that. So if we don't have a good supply of it in our bodies from what we eat, our bodies will then take it from the only source it has, and that's our bones. And that happens more often in women than it does in men. They think it has to do with the estrogen testosterone levels. So calcium is more important, at least in this case, for women to take. So follow that recommendation if you're a female, please. Iron is also a really important one too. just to prevent anemia. But they're finding that B6 is also, so it may not be just iron. So if you're anemic and you can't figure it out with iron, check your B vitamins. B6 might be the problem too. So this slide, I really want you to pay attention. I'm going to read the material on the left, and that's good stuff, but I want you to look on the right, and you can see where it says supplement facts. So when you buy products in the store, they'll either say a nutrition or they'll say a supplement fact. If it's a supplement fact, it's not regulated by the FDA, and it's this supplement fact badge looks just like the nutrition label that you would find on purpose. This isn't regulated by the FDA. This is put on there to look like that, so you think that it's something that the FDA is approving. So make sure that you understand the difference between a supplement fact that's not approved by the FDA and that doesn't go through all the testing that it needs to, and a nutrition label. Okay, so I put that on there so you can see. It looks the same except for the big bold supplement fact on the top. Here is a pretty good video on reading labels, nutrition labels, and it comes up with some really, really good points about how much fat, what kind of fat, what sugars are, and how to find that on the labels, how much fiber we need, things like that. So pay attention through here and kind of pick out those key points that they mention in this video, and it'll help you identify things that if you're going to buy processed food, which we all do, like in a can or in a box, that you understand what's in that food, and reading this label will really help. So our federal government has instituted lots of different programs for us in order so that we can eat healthy. And in 2005, they went to this food pyramid. Now, if you'll notice this food pyramid, and this is probably what you guys have always been used to, when I was going to school when I was a kid and they pushed proper nutrition and good nutrition on the nest, the pyramid was built horizontally and not vertically there. So they were built one atop the other. So grains were at the bottom and they were nice and thick, and then vegetables, fruits, milk, and then all the way up. So the same stuff was in there. I think dairy was in there somewhere, but it was horizontal. So they changed it to vertical. They gave you, if you look at the picture, they give you examples of it, and that's kind of the way it started. And then they improved it by putting kids on it and showing that they were active to show that, hey, proper nutrition is great, but you still have to be active. So you can see the transition of what our federal government did is to try to encourage good nutrition and incorporate fitness into that, because they want healthy individuals, right? And you know, but it had a tough time showing serving sizes and things like that. So that was the food pyramid. So you can look through that again if you want. So Michelle Obama, when President Obama was in, she and obviously people that she worked with, she's not a nutritionist, but the people that she worked with, she campaigned for this. This is called My Plate, and I think it's awesome. You can see, like on a plate view, proportions of what you should be eating. So high in vegetables and grains and proteins and fruits, and you can see kind of the proportion of what you should have. And with this is really cool because even the pamphlets that you get, the paper, if you will, the pamphlet paper ones, will have like nutrition guides in it and recipes. If you look at choosemyplate.gov, you can go through and look at all kinds of like recipes and all kinds of stuff. They have recipes for people on limited budgets. They have recipes for people who want higher grain and vegetable meals. And anyway, they do a really, really good job. So that's kind of the new thing Michelle Obama pushed, and I think it's going to stick around for a while. It's a pretty good illustration of how we should eat. So marketing has gotten really big on the medicinal value of food. We've gone to smoothies, and now there's this product here, the Venga, and there's also the Naked products, where they're pretty much just like liquefied, kale or whatever, and because they know that there's nutritional value to it, and the less processed it is, the better. But we still want to mass market it so that people will, buy it at a convenience. So they label it so that it's easily understood. Like the one on the left is going to give you energy. The one here is going to help you think. I have no idea what the one in the middle with the yin and yang does. The other one is for your heart health and whatever. So, they label them so that and they pack them with the nutrients, vitamins and minerals that are going to influence one particular pattern of nutrition, whether it's energy or intelligence or immune function or whatever. So that's kind of how people are marketing that. Yes, they're good for you. Are they loaded with calories? Yeah. Can you get it and not spend $6 a bottle? Absolutely. You just have to take the time to buy the right foods. But if you want it packaged and easy and you can afford the $6, this stuff was just fine for you to consume. So what you really want to look at is something called antioxidants, and I'm just going to break it down really easy for you on that first bullet. Anything that is brightly colored, food that is brightly colored, like a blackberry or a blueberry or a raspberry, tomatoes, carrots, anything that is bright and colorful is going to have a lot of antioxidants in it. An orange, for example. The next bullet down is probiotics. These are healthy bacteria that live in your gut. We have billions of them in our gut anyway. When we take antibiotics, it tends to destroy some of that gut bacteria, so we need to replace it with in some cases. And so probiotics work. You can find this naturally in things like yogurt. So there you go. You can also buy it in a pill. Folate is another one. This is a B vitamin, and this helps prevent birth defects. So if you're pregnant or planning on being pregnant, make sure you're getting plenty of folic acid or folate. Your doctor will actually just give you pills. Anytime that my wife and I have we're getting ready to have a baby, we'll go to the doctor, and the doctor, we find out that Janelle's pregnant, my wife is pregnant, then he just gives us a bottle of them that lasts through the whole pregnancy, so she just takes them. So really important. No one wants spina bifida. That's the picture on the right. That's where the spinal cord grows out of the spinal column. And anyway, not a good thing. So reduce that risk by taking folic acid and other birth defects. So some things that you can do as a college student to get proper nutrition. These are some ideas for you, so you can look through those. Please take your time with that. I'm going to skip going. I'm going to get going here a little bit. Safety food safety, excuse me. So there are some serious concerns with foodborne illnesses only because we ship so much stuff from out of the country now. We spray it with stuff, pesticides and things like that. So make sure basically that it's fresh and that it's clean. You need to wash your fruits and vegetables before you consume them. If you're going to eat meats and don't use the same cutting board that you cut your meat on in preparation and then put your vegetables on it, you can go the other way. That's fine. You can cut vegetables first. But make sure that you don't cross-contaminate your foods. Our farmers and ranchers do a pretty good job of using the right chemicals. We use irradiation. We irradiate the food to try to kill some of the bacteria on it. These are some of the ways they do it with cobalt, cesium, and other forms of X-ray. So they do that. So just have to be careful with your foods. Make sure you wash them. So food additives are a big thing now because we're trying to preserve the life of them, and we're trying to enhance some of the nutrient value too. So we'll fortify foods like milk and most of our cereals. That's fine. Matter of fact, if you're on a low, budget diet, getting your nutrient that way is just fine. Once again, whole foods are better. Whole naturally occurring foods are better. So food allergies are really, really interesting. I looked up some stuff on food allergies, and you guys can dive a little bit deeper on that. There are about 32 million people affected with food allergies in the U.S. population. That's about 10% of the population have a food allergy, and that is up. That's 10 times the number of people of 35 years ago. So when I was a kid, an older kid, nobody really had a food allergy. Every once in a while, you knew somebody had a peanut allergy or didn't like shellfish. But now it's like 10 times that many people are, that percentage. So there's a lot more people that have a food allergy, and they find that the allergies are becoming more severe. They're not sure really why. We're a lot cleaner than we used to be. Our kids don't get sick or infections as much as they used to be. So it may just be that we're safer, and so our kids don't build a tolerance to a lot of the different foods that we can serve early in their lives. So they really don't know. They just know that it's, food allergies are more prevalent than they've ever been. They occur more often than they've ever have. So organic foods, I've talked about that. You can pay more money for them. They're just grown without pesticides or insecticides. Research is out. It's good food. It's good food. You'll just pay more for it. If you wash your food when you get home, or if you're really, really sensitive to foods, organic may be the way to go. But if you've got pretty good gut sense and you don't get your stomach doesn't get upset with different foods, and you're probably fine just to eat whatever. So let's talk a little about global hunger. This is pretty serious stuff. We can produce enough food in the world to feed just about everybody. We can feed everybody many times over. The problem is getting it to people. So right now we have about 1 billion people who go to bed hungry, and that's not just people in Africa and third world countries. That's right here. Even in our little valley, I'm sure there's kids and people who go to bed hungry every night. And that's sad. That's really sad. So undernourishment is a big part of that. Because if you're not feeding them calories and they're going to bed hungry, then they're not getting the nutrients either. So they're not promoting cellular function and things like that. So what might be, like it says here, is a mild annoyance to us. I missed lunch and now I'm hungry and I'm getting grumpy. Can you imagine living like that every day, day in and day out? So some of the things that affect that, right? So if there's 926 million undernourished people in the world, 1 in 7, then we've got a problem, right? So that's a higher risk than all of the other diseases combined. That's AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis combined. So there's a lot of people being affected by malnutrition. Now, malnutrition will lead to disease eventually, right? Or death for lack of cellular function, whatever that may be, liver function or kidney function or whatever. So there's a big push to try to get food to as many people as we can. So there's a few things that kind of get in our way of that. Obviously, people can't purchase the food, so there's a poverty issue. Economic systems of the country that we're trying to get the food to, conflict, world population growth in concentration. I think I need to stress that, because if you guys have ever driven from Safford, Arizona to Phoenix, or even to Tucson, there's a lot of open space out there. So it's not like we can't put people in open space and maybe even start farming or whatever. But if you put a bunch of people in concentration in one area, it's very, very difficult to feed them. Climate change, because of where we used to be able to grow crops and now it's more difficult, that's a problem. One of the biggest concerns is the government. We can get the food to the country. We can't get it dispersed because of infrastructure and in some cases because of greed and the government taking it and selling it off to whatever. So we can make the food. We can produce the food. We can get it to the border. It's really hard to get to the people because we need a lot of government assistance to do that, to transport it, to get it spread out to the places in need, things like that. So that's kind of the issue with malnutrition when it comes to hunger. So here's some of the effects. Obviously, they're not going to work as well. They're not going to have the same intelligence because they're fatigued all the time. There's going to be low birth weight with kids. They're going to run higher risks of infections, and the list goes on and on and on. So you can look through those bullets there and look a little deeper. Get on the internet. There's plenty of information out there. I've read there's some literature out there that says that it's about $3.5 trillion. And that's not just malnutrition as far as people not eating well. It's also obesity. $500 billion in obesity is spent, affects society. So we're spending somewhere like $3.5 trillion because of malnutrition. So understand that this is a big deal. People are really trying hard to fix it. We need lots of cooperation to do so. So especially on the hunger side of it. On the obesity side of it, that's a whole new ballgame that we'll discuss in a little bit. Anyway, any questions with that? Let me know. Text me, email me, call me, and let me know, and or let Seneca know, or ask her. And hope you enjoy the discussions and the assignments.